everybody. Assalamu alaikum. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the notify button so you know when you're getting new episodes. And we just want to grow this project. I thank you in advance. Without further ado, let's get rolling. ShOUT. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Mars, host of the SOS, the ShOUT Show. Hope you're having a great day, a great Monday, because if you're not having a great Monday, you're going to have to wait a whole another week to have a great Monday. You see what I'm saying? Think, brothers and sisters, think. And for those who are coming on the show for the first time, I'm going to be your host for the whole 25, 35 minutes. We're going to be talking about some things about this, some things about that. First and most importantly, if you're coming on the show for the first time, I ask everybody, if you don't mind, please click the subscribe button. And if you like the show, let us earn it. Click the like button. That's number one. Number two, if you're already on the show and you are a ShOUT Show regular, you know how we do. If you have any ideas, put your comments in the section. Put your comments in the comment section, and I will give you your official shout out. We have a sister here, Sister Naima Green. What's going on, sister? This will be our shout out right here. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, sister. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Got to shout out our other ShOUT Show family right here. Sister Reed, thank you for coming on the show. If anybody is in the state of Texas, Houston, Reed is an amazing cook. Check her food out. She's starting her own catering business this month, so let's make it for her success. All right, everybody. So listen, let me get to the business here. I'm gonna throw this up here, and I thought about this title, brothers and sisters. This is going to be a little bit of a different show because I want to enter it saying I don't know everything. I want to start out by saying I don't know everything. And why is it important to say I don't know everything? Because it leaves room in the discussion. It leaves room for me to educate myself. I always say the thing about the African American community is that let me give a shout out to Sister Satana too. You know, because of slavery, because of constitutional, so many other things, brothers and sisters, because of racism, institutional racism, and things like that. You know what's interesting is that we really, really have not gotten to be traditionally, like in Islamic society, Islamic community, these purveyors or these people who are students of knowledge. We are persons of knowledge. And I always say we would be greater students of knowledge, but we have to look at who are our teachers. Do you trust your teachers? Do you trust your teachers' intentions? And when I thought about that, I thought about this title. Now, the title might look very familiar to you. It should look familiar to you because The Fire Next Time is one of the great books that was written by one of my favorite authors, James Baldwin. And I thought the title was apropos because I was having these feelings. I wasn't able to really, really put them in a proper perspective. And I've tried to do that on the show several times. And I'm like, what am I missing? What am I missing? What is the emotion that I'm not able to convey to myself and the people that watch the show? And the election has even brought it a little bit more full circle, if you will. You know, because we really can't, as African Americans, we're really not being able to have a full and robust conversation about election process. You know, I talked about, you know, the idea of voting, and you have these whole ideas of voting for suppression. I'm looking on the news today, and they now have, quote unquote, got to check the sources, but GOP strategists are now putting up voting places where you could drop off your vote that are illegal. They're not even voting places. Telling people, come here, drop your vote off. These aren't even legal places. They are illegal setups. They are breaking the law, for lack of a better word. And then it hit me. If you've ever read The Fire Next Time, it starts out with James Baldwin having a conversation with his nephew. And it's a heavy conversation because he begins telling his nephew what you look like. And he tells the nephew, you look like your grandfather, who was Baldwin's father. Baldwin's father was a religious man. But he tells his nephew, he says, you look like that man. He tells him you look like that man. And he tells him that, his features are that you had to appear strong and I don't want to say confrontation, but you had to at least appear strong and not weak. And he said that was the undoing of his grandfather. He said because he basically framed his existence to what he thought white people thought of him. Let me say that. He said that the downfall of this individual, this elder statesman, is that he framed his behavior according to the vision of what he thought white people thought of him. And he told this young man, don't do that. He said, don't do that. And I'm sitting here with that lesson, speaking to myself, speaking to everyone else, is like, in this election, we can't do that. We can't frame ourselves, brothers and sisters, to the perceptions of what people think of us. Because of that, we have things like voter suppression. We have people who will tell you in the nicest of ways, scientific, if you will, that voting is not for you because you don't have the capacity to make those kind of choices. And then the killer part is the word that Baldwin used, which sears in my mind. He says is that we have been forced in many regards to call these people countrymen. We've been forced to call these people countrymen, despite what history says, despite what the laws say, despite the mistreatment, despite the illegality of so many things. We're forced to call them countrymen and afford them, if you will, a vision that allows them to feel comfortable. And in this election, brothers and sisters, the danger is, let me give Sister Rabina Chowdhury a call. What's going on, sister? All the way from the UK. I'm sorry, I meant to give you the link for today's show. I'll get better. But the danger is, brothers and sisters, behind the scenes of COVID, behind the scenes of Trump losing his mind on a daily basis, you have scenarios where we're being forced to recognize people in a process that we have to be fair to them when they weren't fair to other people, but we have to refer to them as countrymen. We can't refer to them as liars. We can't refer to them as thieves. We can't refer to them as murderers. We have to refer to them as countrymen. Hey, what's going on, brother? Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for coming, man. And in this election, the trick, if you will, is that we have to respond to these people and call them countrymen, as if they're our brothers and sisters, as if we have equality and equilibrium around us. They don't call us brothers and sisters, but we have to call them brothers and sisters. The same way, that process that benefits these people, we have to call that process fair because they see it's fair. Think about this. Think about this. In this election, which can easily be stolen, brothers. Since I read all about election machines and stuff like that, The Best Democracy Money Could Buy is a book you want to read. And they talk about the Bush presidency when he defeated Al Gore. Forget about dimple chads and things like that. They have new terms now. Dimple chads back then now is naked ballots. But think about this. You can lose. Let me reframe this. You can go through a process that's inherently unfair, but the person on the other side of the process that benefits, who doesn't see it as unfair, somehow has a prescription to say that process was fair. It's like we ate two meals, right? You had a steak, I had a steak. Well, my steak was old meat. My steak was rotten meat and made me sick. The person goes, I don't care what you say, both of us had steak. And whether your steak made you sick or not, it doesn't matter. I had steak. Therefore, it's a fair process. And the danger, brothers and sisters, is that we cannot be tied to being students of knowledge in this election. We have to be persons of knowledge, which means that there has to be a healthy debate about everything and every process we're about to engage in. I'm going to say this again. We have to be very, very specific, industrious, and inquisitive about every process you're about to go through. I am pulling on my inner Malcolm, who once said, if somebody stabs you in your back and someone pulls the knife out of your back, 2-3 inches, can't call that process. I call it attempted murder. What's up, D Chase? You all right, man. You know you're good with me. There you go. Happened when JFK, when Kennedy. There it goes. So the history is there. But my point is, Black, Latino, Muslim, white, in between, I think we owe it all to ourselves to understand that this process is not fair. To understand that the process is not meant to be fair. Thus, because we have great aspirations, inspiration for a fair process, does not mean it's going to happen. The powers that be, I've brought up specifically this case of GOP strategists putting up boxes, not voting boxes, but boxes where you can drop off your vote and saying, well, it's not illegal. They were caught, brothers and sisters. They were caught by the law and said this is illegal. But if you had put your ballot in the space, they could go, hey, well, you voted. It doesn't matter that my vote didn't count. You're going to tell me you voted. Or, this is classic, you should have found out whether it was legal to vote here or not, or it was legal to drop your ballot off here or not. Therein lies the rub. That Baldwin says is implicit. He says clearly that this system is weighted against you. Let me say this again. That the system is weighted against you. And let me talk about being weighted against you. Any aspect of African American progress here in the United States, including the voting rights in the 1960s, is based upon, not compromise, it's based upon breaking a system. Let me tell you about breaking a system. It is breaking a system and the norms that allow it to exist, in some regards, pre-exist. You see, we operate in this space where we think the law is the law. We don't understand about the things that pre-existed above the law. It's like looking at a building and you can knock down the building, and some people will be happy with knocking down the building. What they don't understand is the building was standing on a foundation, whereby if you swept away all the rubbish, all the rubble, you could still build on that foundation. And that is the code of systemic anything here in the United States. Systemic has to do with what? Permanent identity. Permanent identity. Not just permanent identity, but flexibly permanent identity. I mean, I could plug and play wherever I want to go to. And here, in this particular election, we are primed for certain things to happen. The fire next time, brothers and sisters, is not African Americans and Latinos standing up for our rights. You're going to realize, in some regards, I hope I'm wrong, but the other side now, on election day, prior to election day, will get up and stand up and go, we know those people over there are not our countrymen. We've never treated them as countrymen. But in this scenario, the system could be broken. And instead of the system being broken, they're going to require any kind of resistance that they could put out. You're sitting in a particular time, brothers and sisters. This is not an Arnold Schwarzenegger film. This is not, this is not fiction, if you will. We're sitting in a time whereby a sitting governor had a kidnapping plot You hear what I'm saying? Had a kidnapping plot hatched against her. It was foiled. But here's the deal. In 3-4 days, it'll be old news. In 3-4 days, it'll be old news. You learn about the suspects. The same way we're talking about this governor and the president having coronavirus and being a super spreader. At the same time, brothers and sisters, at the same time, the murderer of George Floyd has been released from prison on bail, and he's been able to travel outside of the state of Minnesota. What does that say? It means the idea of my common brothers and sisters, my countrymen, if you will, is a fallacy. It's a fallacy. You cannot be countrymen if people who had their choice, they had their way, they had the laws, will not treat you like countrymen. Or, in the case of our Latino brothers and sisters, don't even want you in the country. Unless, of course, it's for their own pursuit. It has to do with benefits. It has to do with leverage. It has to do with submission. And I'm telling everybody to wake up the same way I'm telling myself to wake up. Every day, people pat you on the back and say, hey, my countrymen. I'm not your countryman. I'm not your countryman. It begins with the fact that this is not my country. I'm here by happenstance. Happenstance of greed, happenstance of illegality, happenstance of immorality. That's why I'm here. So that whole idea of somehow we're equal, no. It bodes weakly, brothers and sisters. We're not equal. I would even say, in terms of a precision, understanding, a very, very precise understanding of things, I'm above the countrymen. I'm above the laws of the countrymen. Because the laws of the countrymen are only meant to make sure that the countryman has some iota, some identity in a process that normally, if it were a level playing field, they'd be dusted. It'd be over. If blacks and Latinos and Native Americans had access to a process, I mean pure access, unimpeded, for education, for business, right, for politics, this whole thing will be over. 2024, the next election, they're saying that people of color are going to be the majority. And people, white people, don't mean to scare you, but here's the facts. Whether you hold on to power or not, you're not going to be as powerful as you want to be. The laws will take you someplace. They'll hold on to power for a little bit. But let me tell you something. Holding on to power, holding on to privilege, requires a relationship with me. I learned this from the 60s. There are a group of people say, hey man, we want to go in this restaurant. We want to be able to sit at a countertop and have them serve us because our money. And then there was a group of people who said, wait a minute. I got a restaurant. I got a countertop. Why are we going through all of this? Therein lies the rub, brothers and sisters. Therein lies the rub. Because you don't have to be identifying with these people as countrymen. Baldwin was correct. When he spoke about his elder family member making a mistake, trying to conform to what he thought white people thought of him, he was correct. He said, don't do it. Oh, got a quote. Sister Naima Griffin is on top of it. Here it is. To be African American is to be African without memory and American without privilege. That's a mic drop. Thank you, Sister Naima. That's a mic drop. And so even as we go through this political process of choosing the president, of choosing the vice president, and senators and congressmen and all of your local people, this quote that Sister Griffin just put on here is the thing that we deal with every day. Every day. When you wake up, you deal with it. When you go to sleep, you deal with it. We are perhaps, some of us on the chat, I would even say even more. I said it yesterday. We are slowly moving out of the generation of people that remembered life without the ability to vote. Life in a segregated community. Life of not being able to go over here, go to this school, be out of here by sundown. We're not even talking about those people. We're talking about voter suppression, which is relevant. But the greatest the greatest voter suppression when you can't vote at all. And we don't understand what that means. Because this whole idea of being countrymen means we can all vote now. No! I had to fight you to vote. I had to fight you to vote. I had to lose my job to vote. I had to risk my life to vote. You walk to a ballot and it's no problem. I walk to the ballot, I got to worry about axe handles. And that was the life of brothers and sisters back in the 60s trying to vote. And the whole idea marched to the idea of being able to vote. They were not treated like countrymen. Don't be fooled. You're not being treated like countrymen either. These parties, Democrat, Republican, listen, brothers, do your homework. Do your homework. I saw something on Instagram. I think Sister Rabina sent it to me. But I remember hearing about this. You know, research what happened to black elected officials in the late 1800s in Wilmington, North Carolina. Wilmington, North Carolina. And see how the Republicans did those black folks, how the Democrats did those black folks. North Carolina, which is a state that's actually in play and potentially will turn on a heavy turnout of what? African-American voters. So let me be succinct. Let me wrap up. The fire next time is a fire that burns if we don't realize that there must be a fire. There must be a call to action. We must go from being students of knowledge to persons of knowledge, speaking to other persons of knowledge. We share knowledge. It's not for us to sit and wait for knowledge to be visited upon us. We can't be in polling places. We can't be at voting booths. We have to be in the street yelling to the highest of our voices. Yes, we must vote, but understand it doesn't mean that you're going to be equal. Yes, you must vote, but it doesn't mean that Joe Biden's going to do what you want to. In the illest of things, Donald Trump, in the middle of everything, brothers and sisters, all his social protests, can pull hundreds of blacks and Latinos to the White House to stand on the lawn, which was a super spreader event, and lie to them. Lie to them. And they sit there and they take it. You know why? Because they see themselves as countrymen. Young, idealistic, but they see themselves as countrymen. I don't see myself as a countryman. If I did, I wouldn't be talking about this right now. I wouldn't be doing a shout out show. Let me tell you guys the framing of the shout out show. Can I do that for you? Let me tell you the framing of the shout out show. Someone asked me, why do you do it every day? Now, for those who've never been on the shout out show, I'm going to tell y'all something. This is episode 168. What does that mean? It means from the beginning of Ramadan 2020, we've not missed a show. We've not missed a show. Now, let me tell you who I owe that to. I owe it to Mr. Dick Gregory. I owe it to Mr. Reverend Vernon Johns. I owe it to Malcolm X. I owe it to I owe it to Fannie Lou Hamer. I owe it to a lot of people. Because in their orientation, the love that they left for us in their texts and their examples and their efforts and their ideas, it reminded me one solitary thing. If you're a student of knowledge, every once in a while, student gets out. School lets out. If you're a person of knowledge, you're always going to be looking for knowledge. That in and of itself, a really heavy concept, but meaningful. If something were to happen to me, think this. If something were to happen to me with 168 episodes, if you took one episode and wrote half a paragraph on it, you'd have a book, a text of almost 140 pages. And what does that mean? It means that people can go back and find the conversations that we were having, like this one today, like the one yesterday, and the one before that. Because I'm raised by thinkers. I'm influenced by thinkers. People like James Baldwin, who told me when I was really young, don't trust what you hear. Don't trust what you hear. Don't believe it. Investigate. And I'm saying, hey, it framed my childhood. The Last Poets had a song. I love the song. It's two of them. The White Man Has a God Complex, but the favorite one, and all of you should listen, is the song, Niggas Are Scared of Revolution. That was the name of the song, Niggas Are Scared of Revolution. And he told a psychological breakdown of what it was. And that psychological breakdown was A, what was thought about the black man and the black woman, but B, what the black man and the black woman thought in this environment. And what they thought about themselves. So free yourselves, brothers and sisters. Free yourselves. Read the first part of Baldwin. Find the young man and the young woman. Let them know that they're not coming. And the people who parade the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they're not your brothers and sisters. They're not your countrymen. This is not your country. Therefore, it's an illegal or illogical argument. And in this election process, go to the polls, but go informed and go angry. Go angry. Don't go as a part of some process that's been, go angry. Because I told you, just like King and Malcolm X and all of them, around the idea of the Voting Rights Act, you're not going to vote your conscience. You're going to break a system. Break it. Break the system. Stop playing around. These people don't love you and never have loved you. The Constitution never loved you. Declaration of Independence never loved you. The Voting Rights Act is fought over blood and tears, not peaceful compromise. Baldwin was correct. The fire next time is, how angry are you going to be? But with that anger, how intelligent are you going to use it to change the situation? Otherwise, there ain't going to be no fire next time. Nope. There will be no fire. You know what it'll be, brothers and sisters? Damn near what we got right now. You know what we got? Darkness. I'm Preacher Mars. This is ShOUT Show. Stay blessed. Hope to see you guys soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Appreciate you. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
Hey everybody, this is your brother Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your ShOUT Show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next ShOUT Show. A simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone. You probably wonder what that smell is. That's me. I smell good. And the reason I smell good is because I use oils from Tarifa Tar. So I'm not saying you can't smell good. I'm not even saying you stink. I'm saying you have the opportunity to smell exquisite. Check out tarifatar.com for some of the best oils and scents in town.